Welcome back, everybody. Derek Sue, your East Oakland advocate. Well, I'm going to talk a little politics today because something really stupid came out of the mouth of former POTUS45. If you don't know who former POTUS45 is, that's Donald Trump. And the other day he mentioned something really stupid. And what he said was that he vows to end birthright citizenship. Okay? Well, we know that the Donald, POTUS 40, former POTUS 45, makes some pretty bold statements. And this is one of them. And that's how he stays in the limelight, the spotlight, and continues to annoy uh, most of us. But he does have a following. That's the sad part. And the following is those are the radical right. And I know a lot of you should be aware that I'm an independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But I was both previously. When I first was 18, I registered as a Democrat and I voted as pretty much a Democrat, but I didn't like a lot of things that the Democrats were pushing and the way that they went about things. I didn't agree with that. So that party wasn't for me. And then when I got into my counterterrorism work, I became a Republican because predominantly that's where all the work was. And everybody who I was around were Republicans, very few Democrats. There were some, there definitely were some, but nowhere near as prevalent as Republicans. So I became a Republican, um, essentially like Arnold, Republican in name only, so that I had work and plenty of work and good work. Uh, but again, I didn't like them, and even worse, the Republican Party hated me because of me being Asian, and that's the bottom line. And it was even worse with the local Republican Party right here in Alameda County. So after I retired, I became independent. Uh, my wife, my former wife, my second wife, had actually changed to independent uh, before that, and so that was quite interesting. You know how we voted. We voted independently, but anyway, um, what POTUS 45 is proposing is illegal, and it was deemed illegal in the Supreme Court back in 1943. In fact, it's mentioned right here on the timeline of history. In 1943, Chinese exclusion laws are repealed because they're deemed illegal. And we didn't even have a birthright up until that time because the established power had said that we had no rights here in the United States. We couldn't vote. We couldn't even testify in court. Uh, so in 1943, United States Supreme Court said that how the Constitution was written covered all people, didn't put any limitations on that. And this is something that POTUS 45 is stirring up. He's trying to revive this. And then he does have a following on this. And so he's saying that he would uh, use this only to address the illegal immigrants. And when they come here to have children here, that that birthright is, they don't have that birthright, anymore. And so that's what America did to the Chinese and the Asians, back in the formation of this country, or the early age, uh, at least from the gold rush, the 1840s and 1850s is when my family first stepped foot on the shores here in San Francisco. So one of the things that I wanted to say was that that law is illegal. And a law like that prevented my great grandfather from ever having the ability to attain U.S. citizenship. So while he immigrated here from China, he was never a citizen. He was never allowed to vote, even though he was a multi-billion or multi-millionaire, which would have been a multi-billionaire back in our days today. But he was he didn't have rights here. He actually couldn't even own the property that the cannery, his wealth, where his wealth came from. He couldn't even own that. And same thing with in a lot of his businesses. And then in the late 20s, when the government started going after him because he was just too high a profile of an Asian person, and it was annoying the powers that were in place at that time, which was the Caucasian race. And that annoyed them, that an Asian man, that they had laws to prevent from happening, prevent my great grandfather from doing what he was able to do and accomplish. They said no, and so they set out and ruined my great grandfather. And by the time he passed away in 1934, I think, yeah, 1934, he still couldn't be a citizen. And so he died and was actually first buried in Mountain View Cemetery in a pauper's grave, because Chinese couldn't own property. And so the only place that even people with dignity, like my great grandfather, who was a multi millionaire and did so much good, ended up in a pauper's grave. No headstone. It was simply a numbered stone there. I remember when I first visited his old site, and he had already been moved to the mausoleum, a newer one, during the 80s, through my cousins Gene and others. We were able to move my great grandfather and my great grandmother both into the first mausoleum that was erected at Mountain View Cemetery right here in Oakland. And everybody was removed from the ground at the paupers section, or they called the old Chinese section. And it was never maintained. It was overgrown, and the only clue that you had people there were little bricks with a number on it, and that was it. And I found that the one where my great grandfather and great grandmother were buried prior to them being moved. But again, they weren't allowed to become citizens because the racist laws in this country at the time, and they were removed because they were racist and unconstitutional. But yet POTUS45 wants to revive that and restore that. And unfortunately, with him, he is so unpredictable, is that he could say that, well, we're going to go back generations. We're going to remove all of these undesirables, as he calls them. And we know who he's going to target. He's going to be targeting the Latinx. He's going to be targeting the Asians. He's going to be targeting the Muslims and any nationality that isn't white. And we know for a fact that's what he's going to do because that's what he's done in the past. So I just want you to be aware that this idiot is advocating the total removal of birthright citizenship here in America if he's elected the next president. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.